Ladies and gentlemen, we have just witnessed one of the most crazy match days in all of football history. This new UCL League phase has brought us crazy games, and today we have seen goalkeeper scoring and total blowouts. This final match day has changed everything.
All right, so here's how the league table looks at the end of it. We have Arsenal in first, Bayern in second, Liverpool finishing third, Tottenham in fourth, Barca in fifth, Chelsea in sixth, Sporting in seventh, and Man City in eighth. So how are we feeling? Let's start with the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the Madrid game. Probably one of the best games I've ever seen. How are you feeling, Pedro?
Wow, that was a crazy game. Everybody like who watched it, oh my gosh. It was the same stadium that was La Decima and the 8-2. So it's a pretty historic stadium in football. So Benfica needed to win to go to playoffs because they were even qualifying for playoffs, and Madrid needed to win to get top four because if you get top four, you get home field advantage for the second leg. So it was a pretty important game for both sides, and Benfica just started dominating the game. They were crazy. They were all over Real Madrid, but they couldn't finish at all. And even after that, Real Madrid just found a goal out of nowhere with Asensio making like a really nice cross to Mbappe with the header. And then Pavlidis got the ball on the wing, rinsed Asensio.
That was
Asensio,
bad. It was really
Yeah,
bad.
but
Asensio dropped the Real
Asensio's so
goal.
bad, bro.
Not
Asensio's
great, but
actually garbage. I don't know how he was getting compared to
I was
Kubarsi. I don't know how he was
embarrassing.
getting
If
compared
anyone
to
has
all these great center backs. He's so
Yeah,
bad.
I mean, if anyone, Asensio versus Kubarsi debates were like 6 months ago, guys. But like, if anyone hasn't seen that, I really think you guys should go watch. I think it was Benfica's first goal. Honestly, it was humiliation, bro.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching that game. But my favorite part about the game is at the end when I was watching in the commentator because it seemed like Benfica didn't know that they needed to score another goal. Like they were up 3-2, and then they were doing subs, and they were all walking as slow as they can, walking like they didn't even know they had to score. And the commentators going like, yeah, it doesn't seem like they know they have to score. Why is no one yelling at them to go faster, like to run off? And then after they just casually scored off the free kick, it was crazy.
Not
I thought it was
casually
over
score. That
3-2.
was way more than casually
I know.
scoring. The
No, but like
goalkeeper,
they didn't even
the
have any rush
goalkeeper.
to get there.
I remember I just
Yeah.
finished watching the Barca game, and I was looking at the Madrid game, and I seen, oh, there's two red cards. What's going on in that game? And then
I lost.
I open it up to see like what's going on with the red cards, and as soon as I open the game, I see the goalkeeper scoring. Like the last thing I
Yeah, it was
expect.
genuinely ridiculous.
Oh my God!
It
It
was
looked like
genuinely
something off of
ridiculous.
like top 10 unexpected YouTube football moments or something
Listen,
like.
listen. I was super happy to see the trademark Real Madrid temper tantrum after a loss, two red cards. It's
Yeah.
it's what they do. But no, I think like the last time I seen a keeper score in the Champions League, I think 2 years ago was yeah, I can't remember who it was. I
Oh,
think
it was the guy from Lazio, the Lazio
yeah,
keeper,
yeah, yeah,
the Lazio
yeah.
keeper. Yeah.
But like it's such a rare occurrence, especially like to do it. Keepers are only gonna go up for like a free kick or corner when they need to score. So like if a keeper's scoring, it's gonna be a clutch goal. And I've never seen anything like it as well. Because even though Madrid had already lost, Benfica hadn't really already won. They needed a
Yeah,
second
that
goal.
was
I
like
think
an
it's
extra clutch goal. A goalkeeper scoring to save your season in Champions League is, I don't know, that might be the first time that's ever happened. And for
yeah,
it to happen on Real Madrid
genuinely,
just brings
yeah,
more of a smile to my face. Like I could smile eye
yeah,
to eye right now.
100%, 100%. I could smile a
100.
lot wider than
That
I've
might,
ever done
that
before.
might bring Benfica together because they've been having a really bad season, and
Yeah.
especially like a goal like that will save. It's
Mhm.
crazy.
Especially
Yeah,
Yeah,
for Jose too, because they weren't backing him. Rui Costa and the board, they weren't backing him, but now they're gonna love him. So
yeah.
And
And
it was a
speaking,
great game for Benfica. It was a very good game.
yeah, but I
They were
expected them
all
to
over Real
dominate
Madrid.
Real Madrid. Because
yeah,
Real
if we're gonna talk about poor seasons and underperformers, I think Madrid are probably top of that list, along with a few other people who we could get into right now. And
Yeah.
if you want to know more about why Real Madrid aren't performing well, you can go watch our other video. But let's just get into some underperformers of this table, like people who shouldn't have finished where they should have finished. And honestly, I think one of the biggest ones is Ajax. Obviously, Ajax
true.
hasn't been a good team for a very long time, but as we know, they're a very historical club. They're known to be one of the best teams in all of football, and for them to finish 32nd, it's a huge
Mhm.
yeah,
upset. And you just have to
Yeah.
wonder, is Ajax finished? Are they ever going to be back again? And
Mhm.
right above them too, you have Napoli, and then below them you have Frankfurt, you have Villarreal. There was a PSV. You have a lot of upsets in this league phase, which is one of the
Yeah,
reasons why the league phase is so good.
yeah, this is one of the things I love about the league phase. Obviously, 18 matches of Champions League football in one day, all at the same time. It's excellent, and you're bound to see some crazy moments. Today we saw some of the more crazy moments, but it's only the second year of the format. But I think some of the craziest final day Champions League moments of all time, and I think as well, um, there's a lot really going on with it, and I want to talk about a team that just missed out on top eight, team that was in top eight before. I want to talk about PSG because
True.
they I think hosted Newcastle, and they just weren't even in it. I think Dembele missed his pen. It finished 1-1. Like, I don't know what you guys thought, but I don't know. I haven't been impressed
I
with this
think
team.
PSG have just been performing extremely poorly this season. I think they're a one season wonder. Yes, they're going to be one of the
Yeah.
top teams, but they definitely don't have a chance to repeat. Same with like people
Mhm.
like Dembele. He was 100% one season wonder, and obviously it's not good to see those one season wonders because it's good to see a lot of top teams at football because it makes like more interesting games. But for them, I just don't see them consistently staying as a top team, especially because of their league being so unappealing to many players to go
Yeah,
to, and it's kind of hard to remain consistent as a top team. If you look at the longest clubs to be top teams, you always see clubs in like Italy, Spain, and England because they all have the best leagues, and yeah, it's kind of the best way to put it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Talking about top teams, I mean, my club's on top. I would love to talk about Arsenal. We are undefeated in Champions League, so I'm really happy about it. You can hate on Arsenal all you want, but I know your team's not first in Champions League. And that's kind of just the way it is.
You know who's first in Champions League last season? Liverpool.
Too. I know, and you know who's first in Champions League this season, which is what we're talking about, Arsenal, and that's why I think that we have a high chance of winning it. Yeah, it was a great performance today. We played amazing. Arteta put in, a great shift as a manager. I think I was super happy to see two 17-year-olds play. Arteta never does that. Two debutants, I love to see it. It was a comfortable win. They scored a nice goal at the end. Kind of made their night, but yeah, it was nice to host them, and I'm glad that we won comfortably and it wasn't like a big problem like some other games.
yeah. I mean, I think just quickly, I think Arsenal are always gonna perform when they don't need to. I don't think it's important whether they finished first or fourth here, first or eighth here, even first or 24th here, because in the end, the goal is to win. You don't win by going first in the league phase. You win by winning the final. I think Arsenal are yet to face a challenge under pressure where they've succeeded. They haven't won
Bayern?
a trophy in years. That
Bayern?
I don't think that's pressure because I don't
Bayern?
think.
There's no pressure against Bayern? Okay.
Listen, I'm not gonna go too into it. I just want to say Arsenal finishing first in the first half of the Champions League. That's nothing new. They always tend to bottle it in the end. But yeah, I was impressed by them. They're looking like a good team this year. They're looking better than they did last year. And yeah, I guess let's see where they go.
I don't think we can even like give disrespect to Arsenal because they won every single game of the league phase. I don't think. Well, last year that didn't happen, and I don't think that's gonna happen for a long time. I feel like that's gonna be a record that's gonna
Yeah,
be set for years.
if we're talking about who looks dangerous moving forward out of this league phase, I think Arsenal is definitely up there. Like, yes, you can put them off because of their history, but you can't disregard the fact that they are one of the top teams in football right now, and they do
They
have the
look like a
potential
different
to
team
go
this
on
year.
and win the UCL. The only thing that I'm not really too confident in with Arsenal is I feel like they don't have a lot of confidence with players. Sorry, not confidence, experience in their players with in the latter stages of the Champions League. How many of their players
Yeah,
have made it to the latter stage of the Champions League? If you look at a lot of the top clubs that are the favorites, other favorites, they'll have a few players. I'm gonna use the example of Barcelona right now. They have somebody like Lewandowski who has made it and won the Champions League all the way. I'm not the biggest. I don't know too much about Arsenal, but I don't think they have anybody who has won the Champions League previously. Judah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they
I think
are
you're right.
definitely one of the teams that are looking dangerous moving forward. But who do you guys think are some of the other teams?
yeah. I mean, I think in terms of danger, you have to look at Liverpool. They spent so much, and in the league, it hasn't been rewarding. You know, people are struggling to adapt. But in the Champions League, they haven't really skipped a beat. They finished, I believe, third
Third,
behind
yeah.
Bayern and Arsenal, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. But yeah, Florian Wirtz scoring again. I think he's adapting, and I think they're just gonna look more and more dangerous.
Yeah,
They'll
6
have
nil
Isak
today.
joining them. They'll have Isak joining them for the latter stages if they make it. But I just think in general they just have a really solid squad. They look dangerous. Slot, as long as he keeps his job, I think they have a better chance even, because I think messing with the stability sort of what they've got right now would be the wrong choice personally, especially for a manager that's won them something recently. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Anyone else who you think is dangerous?
Bayern, obviously,
Yeah.
because they won every single game but against Arsenal, and Arsenal are first. So to have that consistency and to be solid like that, you have to be a good team. And Arsenal and Bayern, sorry, are a very hard team to beat. So
Yeah.
I respect Byron. I feel like their manager company, he's gone under some pressure moments, and I think that he's really proven himself as a manager, and he's more than just a big name because people were thinking that just because he's a big name and he was the manager of Burnley, that they're assuming that maybe he's out of his depth for being the manager of Bayern, and obviously early on in his stint at Bayern he had some questionable results, stuff like that, but I think he's really adjusted into it and finally shifted into the job, and I think he's doing a great job. And I think that he's built a very good squad. Olise is in there for the Ballon d'Or. Harry Kane's in there for the Ballon d'Or. Musiala's just coming back from injury. Alphonso Davies is coming back from injury. So really, it can only go up from here for them, and they're second. So they don't really have much more improvement to do. So I really think that with people coming back from injury and company coming back into the spot, or sorry, getting adjusted to the spot, I think that they're looking amazing personally.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
they have I don't know. They have Olise, and Olise is actually on track right now to beat one of Messi's records. Of course, he's in a worse league. There's more games being played nowadays than back then, but he is on track to beat Messi's record, which is it's big for anybody to beat Messi's Messi. If you beat his record, you've got to be a good player. Um, and another good thing that Bayern has is since their league is so light, they can kind of put their focus towards the Champions League, and they can rest their players in the league matches and put all their focus on the Champions League, which is I feel like what has given Bayern an advantage previously in history, as we've seen when they had those dominant seasons, especially in that 2020-21 season when they won the Champions League previously.
I think it was 19.
Was it? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was COVID year.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also easy to just rotate.
And I know this is probably biased, but I think one of the biggest favorites this year is Barcelona, and I think many people can agree with that. And the main reason why I'm more confident this year than I was last year was because last year we were more of an exciting team, like a flashy team. You would see us win every game by 4 or 5-0, and every game would be easy. But now we'll be having these tough games, we'll be going through rough patches, and we'll still end up coming out on top, which is what you like to see. It's kind of what proves if a team is actually a good team or if they're just a exciting team. And I feel like this season we've kind of fixed up on a few positions, fixed up on a few different things. We've had a few poor moments, but I feel like our squad has matured now, and I feel like you could definitely see Barcelona making it to the latter stages and possibly winning it.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like they could be still pretty shaky in big games because they lost both of their games against the pot one teams like Chelsea and PSG. I mean,
But we've
Chelsea
never been
was
shaky in big games.
They won 3-0.
That was early in
mean,
the season. No Lamine Yamal.
True. I love Barca. I think Barca's a great team. As an Arsenal fan, one of the only teams that I'm really scared of for Champions League is Barca. Bayern, they're second. We've beat them. And, a majority of the table and other people on the table we've beat before. But, Barcelona we know would be such a problem. And honestly, they're probably one of 2 or 3 teams that would probably stop us.
Yeah,
Right.
the only thing, sorry to cut you off, you can continue. The only thing I fear about playing against Arsenal is how poor we are at defending set pieces. If you watch the semifinals
That
last
is a
year,
problem.
Inter scored, it was 2 or 3 corners on us, and those are 3 goals. 3 goals in a semifinals is a big thing, and we haven't really fixed anything. We have a pretty small squad, short in terms of size, and Arsenal, as we know, they're set piece FC. So
Yeah.
Right. So that's how we didn't score a single set piece today. They were all from open play. We had
Playing
20
against
corners and we
who
didn't
are you
score. We
playing
had 20
against?
corners.
I
Who
would
are
chill
you
out with
playing
20
against?
corners. We had 20 corners. We didn't score one. We
How
had
did you
20
score?
corners,
How
we
did you
didn't
score
one.
against United?
Pardon me?
How many corners have you scored in the
One
Prem?
goal and still a loss.
One of them was a corner. One of them was an own goal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's move
So-
on to Sporting. I want to talk about them because I don't think they were even on anyone's radar to start
Mm-mm.
the
I didn't think they were gonna do
campaign.
well.
They finished 7th. Listen, they got a bye. Will be good for their players. They don't seem to be taking the Gyökeres loss too harsh, but
Yeah.
Arsenal seem to be taking the Gyökeres signing a bit harsh. They are getting worse. But
He
I
scored.
think
He scored
I
today.
again,
Against who?
Kyra,
It's not hard.
Against
He
who?
scored today.
Against
Killer.
who?
Yeah.
But
Today he
again,
scored.
Luis Suarez for scoring, playing really nicely. But yeah, I just they're getting the results and they're getting good results, consistent results. They look good. They almost beat Bayern too. They have something about them where they can just take on anyone. And I feel like it's a very underrated team. You got people like Ousmane Diomande as well. They just have a solid core, solid base, and I think they're a team to definitely look out for. But I want to talk about their PSG game for a second because one of the disappointing players in that game, and one of the disappointing players throughout the whole season, was Luc Chevalier. I think he's been horrible. I think replacing Donnarumma with him is one of the bigger downgrades in recent history. But what do you guys think?
I agree with that. I don't think. I mean, here's the thing with that. I think that Chevalier necessarily isn't a bad keeper, but I think that when you go from a keeper like Donnarumma to a keeper like Chevalier, it will make him look. It will make him look 50 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
Donnarumma is. Think about him as a keeper. He's huge. He's commanding. He makes crazy saves. He can carry a team. Chevalier. I've never really watched Chevalier, but I know about him, and I know that he is not as big as Donnarumma, and he is not as commanding as Donnarumma, and I know he's not as good as Donnarumma. So it is definitely a huge downgrade, like you said. But I think maybe he's not as bad as some people think he is.
Yeah,
He was
and
injured for a while.
they
was
had
injured for a while
I don't know who they had, but
Hey,
I don't know. One thing about Donnarumma leaving PSG, if you watched PSG last season, I mostly watched their Champions League matches, but if you did watch them, most of their build up, they would give it to Donnarumma, who's excellent with his feet. He's very good at that long range passing, and they would just play long balls and they would try to win the ball up high. And most of the
Yeah.
goal kicks came from Donnarumma. Most of the time when they had possession at the back, they would give it back to Donnarumma, look to play it up high and high press and win it up there, and then go break fast. And now that they don't have him, he was a crucial part to his system. Did they force him out, by the way?
It was
Yeah.
something like that. It was
Yeah, it was. I think it may have been the contract or something like that.
I don't know. It's
yeah.
always
I
something with
think
PSG.
he definitely wanted to leave too, because he
Yeah.
left for a crazy low fee. So
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
happened there. I guess
He was fine to go.
we'll never know truly what happened, but something definitely did happen.
they just got Trafford.
What do you mean?
Like City got Donnarumma when they.
Well, I feel like you
just
have the
signed
chance to sign Donnarumma, you're not gonna
Yeah.
pass it.
25 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone's taking that.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Do you guys have anyone else who you think sort of didn't stand out, who you were more expecting to in terms of players?
Players.
I feel like City is a little bit shaky, like the team.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
a little
but I feel like
shaky.
that's based off the league. I feel like in the Champions League they have
No,
been.
not even. They lost. Both their losses were against Bayer Leverkusen and Bodo Glimt.
Yeah.
If they won their pot 1 games, then I think they still qualified automatically for the
Yeah,
round
they're
of
in
16.
8th.
So I wouldn't write them off. As I said, they addressed what they needed to. They had a center back problem. They got Gehi. They had a winger problem. Savinho and Oscar Bob.
Savinho.
Those are some of the worst players I've ever seen play for City.
Savinho.
And
Oscar Bob
and they
left City
addressed that.
today, actually.
yeah, to Fulham, but
Yeah.
that's for another time. Anyway, they addressed what they needed to in this window. Semenyo and Gehi are 2 signings that fully raise their level, and I think even though they might not look great, they still won their pot 1 games, and I think one of the reasons they're looking so bad is because they didn't win their easy games, but they still look like a team that can go on a run.
Yeah, I have 2 teams to mention, both Italian teams, but one I feel like not many people are talking about that they should be starting to talk about, and another one that I think it's the biggest upset of the entire league phase, and the upset would be Napoli. Coming 30th,
Yeah.
the amount of quality they have in their team, they won Serie A last season, and I don't know, I didn't even know they finished 30th. I'm looking at it right now.
No one
And
was really talking about it.
yeah, I feel like that's both a lot of Italian teams, nobody ever really talks about them. But Napoli are a good team. And I'm kind of upset.
Napoli are great. Yeah.
I'm kind of upset not to see them into the next round. But if
Yeah,
we're gonna
McTominay, De Bruyne.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, they've had injuries.
even Hoyland's been playing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've
Um
been unlucky with injuries, but I feel like they're still a good team.
yeah, but if we're talking about the other Italian team, they recently beat Napoli. I'm talking about Juventus. yes, they haven't been the most convincing. And you see Sam, you see that face. That's what a lot of people say when they. That's what a lot of people, the face a lot of people make when they hear Juventus, and that's just because in the last few years Juventus hasn't been good because of their coaches, because of their systems. But honestly, I watch a lot of Juventus games, and sometimes it's a little bit on and off. But when they're on their day, they actually look like a really strong and solid team. They look like they play good football, and their coach is like implementing a system that's not really seen today in football. I don't know too much about it, but I just remember seeing something about that. And I know that they have a good core. They have Kenan Yildiz. They have a lot of good strikers up front. And I feel like people should be talking about them more. And they finished 13th. They finished in a pretty good position. And yeah.
There's
Yeah,
two.
I mean, I think they're okay. Like I said, I made that grimace. I really don't think they're too great. You look at their defense, for example. They got Lloyd Kelly starting in the back line in 2026. I just think there's a lot of
Yeah,
positions that they need
there's
to
things they
improve,
need to fix.
and they're more focused on getting another striker for some reason. They've been linked with Mateta recently. Fabrizio Romano linked them with getting back Kolo Muani. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that I think needs to be addressed if they want to be serious. But they have a good base, like you said. They have Kenan Yildiz, Jonathan David has been really hitting form. Like I think they do have quality, but
Yeah,
I think it's a
Thuram.
matter of maybe this isn't their year and they need to rebuild a bit more,
Yeah,
in
I
my
feel like they
personal.
could go farther than people are giving it to them. And also, we mentioned a few of the things that you need to fix in one of our videos if you're interested in that. There's many other teams in there too. But Pedro, you wanted to say something earlier? What was that?
There's two teams that I would have never expected to even go to the playoffs, which is
Yeah.
Karabag and Bodo Glimt.
Yeah, I think I really want to talk about Bodo Glimt because I was obviously Tottenham Europa League. We played against them, but we I was watching them throughout the whole Europa League. You know, they beat Lazio, who we were gonna play, and then won. And I think their stadium is a bit of a fortress, and especially now in two legs, where no matter what, they'll have to go to the Arctic Circle in Norway and play against Bodo Glimt on artificial grass. It even sounds menacing. You know, it sounds like a crazy crazy away day. And I feel like a lot of teams we saw Tottenham couldn't get points against them, Man City couldn't get points against them. Like this season, I think their home stadium is really truly a fortress, and I think if they
They,
keep momentum, they can really really do a lot with that.
they just beat Atletico Madrid and
Yeah,
City
well,
back to back.
yeah. I think and Madrid was actually at home too, so it's also showing it's not just the stadium. You know, it's they got quality. You know, Casper Ho, good. They got a lot of people, and I think they're excellent.
But
Yeah.
I don't really know about Karabag because they just lost to Liverpool 6-0.
Yeah,
But they
but
were
I
able to
mean they qualified for a club like that, especially the Paphos. Paphos also qualified. For a club like
Yeah, that's true.
Qarabag and Paphos to qualify over the likes of Napoli and Villarreal and Athletic Bilbao and all those clubs, it's
Passos didn't qualify.
hey, they
yeah,
discredited
you're right.
Spurs Europa League run, but we played
No,
Sorry,
Karabag and
it's
Bodo
up
Glimt.
to it's up to 24th.
I thought it was 28. My bad. Yeah, I
But
mean,
let's move on to a few maybe players that we were impressed by and unimpressed by. Does anyone want to kick off? If not, I can
um,
go. I'm gonna
I'll
say
start.
I'm gonna.
I'm
Okay, go
gonna
ahead.
I'm gonna say it's gonna be obvious what I'm gonna say. Lamine Yamal. I think people hate on him way too much. If you watched the Barca game today, you would say he looked like prime Neymar. I'm not even glazing when I say that. No, he was. You didn't watch it. You were watching the Madrid game. The way he was moving, he like nobody could take the ball from him. And
Yeah,
he scored. It was a bit of a deflection, but I don't know. I think it was going in either way. And the way he was dribbling and moving the ball around, he was extremely sharp today. And I think over the whole league phase, he's been one of the Barcelona's most consistent players and important players. But just to add one more, I think Marcus Rashford, 100% one of the best players of the league phase. He's been scoring goals every single game. I think he's one of the top scorers of the league phase too. And coming from like a bad stint at United over the last few years, I think he's really proved himself.
yeah. I mean, I want to answer to Lamine Yamal for a second because I think everyone truly knows he's the best player in the world, if not one of the best players in the world. I think he's one of the only people who can just like that change a game. You know, and I think that as he grew, like when he was 16 playing in the Euros 17, whatever, he everyone was kind of wanting him to succeed, you know? And then as he sort of became a better player, there was more of a target on his back, you know. And I think that happens a lot with young players, and I think that's why a lot of young players end up failing because I think a lot of people end up sort of getting out of their corner and sort of starting to cheer against them, you know. But I think Lamine Yamal has handled it well. He's still one of, if not the best player in the world, and yeah, he's excellent. For me, I kind of want to give some Spurs players some credit because, yes, you know, we haven't had the best league season, but we're fourth in the Champions League. You know, we have home field advantage till the semis, and I want to give Xavi Simons and Odebert some credit because I think Odebert has been, I think he's really wasn't there last year in terms of just like performing, but he's really turned it on when we need him. Played left wing and right wing, and then Xavi Simons, he's been controlling the game from the 10 as well. I think also he has been probably our best player this season, if not one of our best players this season. And yeah, he's been excellent. I don't want to go into too much detail about that. Do you guys have anything?
I want to talk about Mbappe, which is
Obviously.
crazy. He has 13 goals in 8 games in the Champions League.
He's
I
the reason
think-
Real Madrid are doing well.
How many goals did Rafinha have last season in the Champions League?
I think 14, maybe more. Not sure.
I think I'm pretty sure Mbappe already beat.
But you also have to look at who's Mbappe scoring against. He didn't score in any of
Yeah.
Real Madrid's big games. He scored. It was 4 against. It was like. I think he
Cairo
scored
or
4
something.
against Paphos,
Yeah, Paphos.
and then he
I
scored
think
like.
here's the thing. I think Mbappe's really great at scoring in losses too, or scoring in close games that shouldn't be close, to sort of hide the fact that maybe, you know, he joined Madrid in 2024 when they had just won the Champions League, and now he's playing for them, scoring hat tricks, but they're losing to Benfica, for example. I think Dictator Mbappe is well and truly alive.
It was a problem.
Yeah,
Definitely could
he's
be.
one of those players that you would love to have him, and when you do have him, he'll carry your team. But if you don't have him, the rest of your team will perform better. And
Yeah.
at PSG in those few years when they didn't really have anybody else after Messi and Neymar left, it was it wasn't a few years, maybe it was 1 or 2. It worked. It didn't work to win them a Champions League, but they were definitely a scary team. But as we saw, they sold Mbappe, not sold, they let Mbappe leave, and they brought in a few other players for their squad, and it ended up working out well. And I feel like Real Madrid are going to end up doing the same thing in the future, and it's going to end up working for
Yeah.
them.
For
But-
sure. I think Madrid are looking great, you know. I think especially with they're looking a little interesting, you know.
I
I'm
really
curious to see
do.
how it works. I'm curious to see how it goes, you know.
I
I think
disagree.
if they can crack Mbappe and Vinny and they can, you know, really make it work, I think they have potential. Because I know, you know, I think they would love to crack that code.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, I think that's a bad thing. I think Madrid have looked worse than ever.
yeah.
They've just not gotten top 8. This is the first, like, obviously it's only 2 years in the league phase, but it's probably the first time that they haven't really qualified straight for the round of 16. Even like in the group stages, they
No,
never
last
finished
year
the
they
group.
didn't make
were-
top 8 either.
Oh, right, there was City.
Yeah. With Mbappe, they had Mbappe that year
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I guess you're right. But again, you don't want to put pressure on these, especially when you look at the congestion of these mid-table teams. Inter, PSG, Newcastle are good, Madrid, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Dortmund, Atalanta. You know, there's just so much quality sort of in the teams that didn't qualify. And I feel like it's going to be really difficult to not go through knowing that those are the teams you'll have to be playing against. Those are the likes of teams that you'll have to play against just to make the round of 16. I feel like you never want to be in that position.
Yeah. One player I actually want to give credit to. He doesn't score, like, you don't expect him to score many goals, but I'm looking right now and he's the 4th top scorer in the Champions League right now. It's Gabriel Martinelli. 6 goals in the Champions League. Especially for a club like Arsenal, who usually only score from set pieces or own goals and stuff. For him to have 6
Yeah.
goals, it's pretty impressive. And I've always
Yeah.
downplayed him. He's not the greatest player, but it's definitely impressive for him to be matching people like Osimhen, 1 goal less than Haaland, 2 less than Harry Kane, and scoring more than a lot of other great players.
Yeah, I would love to talk about Gabriel Martinelli. I mean, listen, he is the perfect player to have on the bench. You know, we bring him on off the bench, and he just gives you exactly what you need. You bring him on against some tired legs, and he'll get you at least 1 or 2 goals. He really, you know, he runs for days, and he is really one of our best players this season, for goals especially. One thing you said about the set pieces, you know, that got me thinking, you know, a lot of our set pieces don't work in the Champions League, and a lot of our goals in Champions League are actually from open play, and our set pieces work a lot better in the Premier League, which is an interesting fact because that Madueke, Martinelli, they shine in the Champions League. Madueke scored a beautiful goal a few weeks ago, and Martinelli's been scoring for us. But also, I don't think this Martinelli revolution is a recent thing. Last season we saw him score against Madrid in a quarterfinal. And even before that, he was still scoring for us, and he was still one of our good players. And Mikel loves him. He'll start him. He'll give him all the minutes he wants. And I just really love what he brings. I don't think he brings anything negative. I think he just brings pure pace, and he brings exactly what you want in the left wing off the bench.
Yeah, it does raise the question, like you said, your set pieces don't really work in the Champions League. Like, it does sort of raise the question,
And we're still first. So
the state of like English football in comparison to everything else. Like, England has 6 teams, they all qualified. They had 6 teams in the UCL. They all qualified, at least to the knockouts. Some round of 32, some, top 8. But like, it just does raise the question. The football seems so different from compared to the other leagues. Like, I don't want to go too into it, but I think like it just feels like a fully like different sort of thing, and that's kind of what makes the Champions League so special. Is that like, the style is fully different. That all the games are way more entertaining.
I think every league has a different. It's completely different football, especially if you look at the 3 biggest ones, as I mentioned earlier. You have Prem, which is a more physical league. It's more end to end. You a lot of running involved, and sometimes there'll be exciting games, and sometimes there'll be 0-0 draws. The Premier League is obviously the best league in the world, and the hardest thing about it, as many people have said, is meeting the physical demands. And then
Yeah.
you look at a league like La Liga, which is a very technical league. That league requires a lot of technique. You play against many teams that sit back in a low block, and that league requires you to break down the opposition. And then you could look at a league like Serie A. It's a very tactical league. They're trying to find the spaces. They're trying to exploit the spaces. They're trying to see what systems work, what systems don't. And to play in this league like La Liga, you need to be very smart tactically. And a league like Serie A, you need to be very smart tactically. So when you go into the Champions League and you see all these teams playing against each other, who their leagues require different requirements, you end up seeing a clash, and it's interesting to see which requirement ends up coming up top and which like speciality ends up coming up top. Which this season we've seen it's usually been the physicality, and I feel like as modern football adapts, it's starting to become a more physical game, and we're seeing physicality rise over many other things.
Yeah.
for sure. You see teams get, bodied and out physicaled, in a lot of games. And I think that's one of the reasons why Arsenal is successful, because we have strong players, we have weak players, we have fast players, we have slow players. We can score set pieces, we can score from open play. We can go into a game, play against a low block, and win 1-0 and be fine with that. And I think that's what a big club mentality is. And I think that why I think it kind of helps us be well-rounded. We kind of have a little bit of what you said of each league there. That's kind of what makes a good team, is being able to adjust to play against different types of play styles. And I think that we've done a great job. I think that Barca do a good job too, other than against set pieces. And I think that Tottenham do a terrible job of that.
Yeah, and speaking of Tottenham, I wanted to talk about a few teams who did qualify, whether it was directly to the round of 16 or even just into the round of 32, but don't really look the best. And I'm going to say Tottenham, they qualified. They finished, well, it was 4th, right, Sam?
4th, yeah.
But what were their fixtures? They had probably the easiest fixtures out of any other team in the
Probably
top
the
8.
easiest fixtures.
And
Yeah.
also, a lot of the games were very unconvincing. Look at the first match day. They won by an own goal against Villarreal, who didn't even make it into the round of 32. So I feel like they're one of those teams that did qualify, but they don't really look very strong. And we see that in the Prem, too. They're sitting 15th. All right, just to wrap up on the video we did today, it was a crazy day for football. Final UCL Matchday. I think it was very interesting. This league phase has brought us a lot of interesting games, as we mentioned at the beginning. And thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys got the news you needed from this video. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing our predictions, and stay tuned for any other videos that we do end up making. Thank you guys for watching this. Make sure you like and subscribe for more, and we'll see you guys next time.